I think there's a number of key trends that we're seeing in marketing, and I think they have significant implications in terms of how both marketers and consumers react to those. I think, first of all, this notion of the consumer being more in control means that the marketer, by definition, is going to have less control. I think the implications for that one are particularly profound because we're a whole industry that's been typically focused on our ability as the marketer or the advertiser to control the message from design, development through to production and distribution. I think that's starting to change very dramatically, and I think it has changed. So I think that the consumer, on the other hand, because they're more in control, they have the opportunity to shape their destiny, to shape the messages that they receive. They now have, the whole joke about 57 channels and nothing on. They've got thousands of channels, and there's plenty on, and so they get to be more selective. So that, by definition, means that the marketer is going to have to start to understand specifically what constituency or audience are they trying to reach, and then develop from the content all the way through, again, to the distribution, a plan that is going to reflect that. I think, thirdly, one of the trends that quite, astonishingly ought to be blatantly obvious, but I think has been in the backdrop when you looked at some of the more traditional marketing paradigms like TV and print, is the fact that more of this is measurable, right? And so, I mean, obviously the implications of that are astonishing. At IBM, we're talking about a smarter planet, and a key part of that is business analytics. Well, the smarter planet idea should really lead to smarter marketing, right? And that means that not only do we have to understand the data that's out there, but also what that can be, how that can be used and leveraged to gain business advantage. But we have to do that in a way that's socially responsible. I think there's great sensitivities in the marketplace now, probably rightfully so, because some of the actions that have been taken that kind of scare the consumer off. So I think on the one hand, there's an enormous business opportunity and benefit to having all of that information available and to be able to track it and aggregate it and analyze it. And on the other hand, I think we can't wear out our welcome because we need to make sure we're responsible stewards of that data. There's more and more technology being introduced in the conversation. I think we were talking earlier today about the amount of iPhones and Android phones and all of these other things. And I think it's easy to get lost in this menagerie of the new thing, right? We have to step back and although acknowledge that all those devices are out there and we have to reckon with them, I think as marketers, though, we always have to have kind of strategic tack in the back of our mind. What are we trying to accomplish? And then how can those things be a means to that end? If we just get lost in and caught up in the latest new thing, I think we're going to lose sight of the impact that we can have using those technologies and focus more on the latest Twitter or the latest Facebook app or the latest Droid app or what have you, and not really concentrate on, well, what am I trying to communicate? What am I trying to sell? Let's not forget, advertising and marketing is an opportunity to help shape a consumer's perception. So I think if we look at those things as a means to an end, we're probably going to be better off in terms of our efficacy. One of the ways I think we measure the effectiveness of both new and emerging media is to build on what we have. So we've got the historical metrics out there, whether it's the GRPs and television advertising, the karma ratings and public relations. Now online, I think what we're seeing is a need, quite frankly, for some emerging standards. I think part of the challenge with that is there's so many players now that are building technologies and sites and experiences that it's still a bit of a land rush. So I think we have to wait till the land rush is over to a degree, and then we can start to step back and say, okay, now how do the pieces fall out? How do I best understand the effectiveness of this thing comparable across the industry, right? That cross-comparability, I think, is a challenge. So To specifically answer your question, you've got to look for the next best thing in absence of those standards, whether it's, you know, clicks and conversions in the context of your e-retail experience, or if it's a broader an awareness play, you know, trying to understand how you convey the impact of those impressions. I think there are online surveys and other research methodologies that we're leaning upon where we can actually go back and talk to the consumer. I think things like the Net Promoter Score are a great barometer of all of this activity, because if the success of a business depends on that viral social graph moving forward, then the propensity of a person to go tell all their friends how great that movie was or that car was, then that's also an accurate barometer. So I think there's a green field there, if, you know, for those metrics organizations that are out there listening to go out and develop some of those standards, all the way from, you know, search metrics all the way through to social media effectiveness. I think marketers can get ahead in this rapidly changing marketplace first and foremost by following the advice of a lot of those social media practitioners that are out there, for example, and just constantly monitor the marketplace. I mean, one of my responsibilities, I believe, as a marketer is to constantly be doing my due diligence and keeping an eye on the radar. Now, you can't, on the other hand, there's a fire hose of information. So again, you have to be selective. And me as a consumer of a lot of that data myself, there are particular voices in the marketplace that I tend to monitor and follow, whether they be bloggers, thought leaders, evangelists, what have you, that helps me understand, you know, what's the landscape looking like. I think, but then you have to do something with that data, right? Then you have to take that and feed that into your strategy as a marketer. So I think that's where, you know, meeting with those folks on a regular basis who are your peers, who are your constituents, if you will, listening very closely to your own consumers. That's another key opportunity, because if you're not listening to them, you're ignoring one constituency that you're trying to drive your business forward with. Now, I don't mean to kind of glob them into one big aggregate. They're obviously going to be niches now that you're, depending on what business you're in, you're going to need to follow and listen to more closely. So I think that's where it becomes responsible on the whole marketing organization to create new paradigms, if you will, of listening and making sure that their ears are close to the ground, you know, like listening to the train track to hear whether or not the train is coming. They need to be tuned into those signals, as Google put it, so that they can respond accordingly. I would say rapid smartphone adoption hasn't impacted our go-to-market strategy substantially yet. I think we're on, as many marketers are on the cusp of trying to see how this is going to play out. There's no question, but we're starting to develop content to make sure our existing materials are more mobile friendly. And as for all the reasons I pointed out about the fragmentation of the carriers and the players, that can be a big challenge. But there are partners that are emerging in the marketplace to facilitate that. I think what we as marketers now need to be thinking about is the testing scenarios to help prove it out, the opportunity to get and collect data and be able to represent that data to our constituencies to show them, you know, the immensity of this. I mean, if you think about the landline penetration around the globe being around 1-point-something billion, and you look at the mobile numbers that are emerging, I mean, it's mind-boggling. So there's no question, but we have to be there. I think the question is how do we intelligently approach that market, and I think that test and invest would be a good way of doing so, to continually look for opportunities to learn, and then slowly, as we saw with the internet advertising early on, move those dollars into that realm. I come from the Jurassic age of the internet. You know that old song from Donnie and Marie Osmond, I was country before country was cool? Well, I was internet before internet was cool. I'm Todd Turbo Watson. My nickname, Turbo, is an IBM given nickname. It comes from way back when I first started 17 years ago, and I used to show people how to do something on the computer, and I'd grab their mouse and I'd go, woo! And so they call me Turbo, and it stuck. My job is to help find, service, and support new customers using the internet. So IBM has historically been known for working with large customers, and that's something that we're trying to change. We want to help and work with small and medium-sized customers, and LivePerson is helping us do that. We use their chat solution to appear at moments when customers often need assistance or trying to get a question answered. So what live chat is basically a window that appears on the website behind which there are 30-something trained IBM specialists show up on the website, and we say, "Hi, I'm Todd from IBM. I'm here to help you. What can I do for you today?" This is about putting a face on IBM on the internet. One of the things that LivePerson has allowed us to do is demonstrate that live chat is more productive than making outbound telemarketing calls, and we've proven that. We can chat with multiple people at the same time, whereas our sales reps can only make one phone call at a time. That's what LivePerson has done for us. It has quadrupled our marketing efficiency. For 80 years, we've had IBM blue-suited salespeople who help our customers do what it is that they need to do. LivePerson is about creating that kind of service for us and for our customers on our website. It helps us put a face on IBM on the internet.